Have you seen the new movie on Netflix called Nonnas?
I'm going through my mom and Nonna's recipes, and then I realized food is love. So I want to open an Italian restaurant. What are you, crazy?
Who are you gonna get to come down and cook?
Nonnas, other real-life Italian grandmothers.
It's one of those feel-good, heartfelt gems of a movie. Now, throughout that movie, Vince Vaughn is on a quest to recreate his Nonna's famous or infamous Sunday gravy, which is her Sunday red sauce. And spoiler alert, there's a special ingredient that he can't put his finger on until he finds her recipe and figures out that it is actually apples. It makes sense. Red sauce, tomato sauces are really well balanced with something sweet in the background, but I have not seen apples in a red sauce before. Granted, I am not an Italian grandmother. I'm not even Italian, so this is not my sweet spot. And if you are, or if you know of this technique, please leave a comment down below and tell me everything I'm doing wrong. But I wanted to give it a try to see if I could recreate that legendary red sauce. So the ingredients for this red sauce are pretty basic. Onion, bell pepper, garlic, a couple different herbs, parsley, basil, oregano, a little bit of sausage, some really nice tomatoes, and apples. And the apples are what have me slightly stumped. So in the recipe, what you can read is that it says, quarter the apples and put them in a pot of cold water. And then you can read the words beginning to boil. Then you can read the words the mixture. So I don't think I have it completely locked down. But what we also see in the movie is that the grandmother, and then later Vince Vaughn, are using a cheesecloth to squeeze something out over the red sauce. I think there's very little that could be based on these ingredients, but the apples. So what I've done a couple hours ago, I took 2 apples, quartered them, and put them in like 8 cups of water, cold water on my stovetop, and then I just boiled the heck out of them. They boiled for probably like an hour and a half, and they are completely mushy, and I've reserved the apple cider. I tasted this. It's very appley, slightly sweet. There's no sugar, no cinnamon, nothing in it. It's just literally the water from boiling apples. So that's thing one that I'm not totally sure about. The second thing is this is a sausage-based red sauce, and I've got some really good locally made sausages here. And the one recipe that I could find online of someone recreating this, at least as of the time that I am shooting this video, suggested that you slice the sausage into chunks and then include it that way in the final dish. I don't think that's the right way to do it. So we're gonna pull this sausage out of the casings, and of course we have to cook this sauce down for a while. So it's gonna be on the stove for a couple of hours. That's what I think I'm gonna do as far as the method goes. I still have some big question marks of when the apple cider goes in, whether or not I'm dealing with the sausage correctly, if there are any other specific tips that I'm missing. But if there's one thing that I know about Italian food, it's that it's not usually fussy and overcomplicated. So I'm just gonna scale it back to as simple as I can possibly think, using just the ingredients I have here, plus some salt and pepper, and see if we can't get a really passable red sauce to at least start with. And I think I need to stop procrastinating and just get started on this red sauce, or Nonna's Sunday gravy. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get this sausage rendering down. I am gonna help it along with like half a tablespoon of olive oil. And get the sausage rendering down out of its casing so we can use that fat to cook the bell pepper, garlic, and onion. So I'm just gonna split these casings, pull the sausage out, get it cooking. Okay, while the sausage gets going, I'm going to process through this basil, parsley, and oregano. So if all you have is a list of ingredients and you're missing the method, one way you can sometimes tell in which order the ingredients go in is the order in which the recipe is written. So as an example, the things that are listed at the top are usually the first things that are required in the recipe. This recipe, I don't believe, is the case. So it first lists 2 14.5-ounce cans of whole tomatoes, but the reality is the part of the instructions that I can see talks about the apples first. So I don't think the order is gonna tell us much here. I do think likely that the fact that the basil and oregano are included next to each other and the parsley is included toward the end means that maybe the parsley is more of a finisher in this sauce than cooking down with the basil and the oregano. So I'm gonna assume that that's the case. So I'm gonna take the 1/4 cup of parsley that we're gonna chop up, move it off to the side. We'll deal with that at the very end in several hours when we're finishing the sauce. And then I'm just gonna process through the oregano and basil. One of the cute lines from the movie, Vince Vaughn asks his Nonna how much basil to use, and she basically says, we measure with our heart. So we're gonna kind of measure with our heart, because the recipe suggests that we need just a tablespoon each of oregano and basil, but I figured this was about the right amount for me. So I've got like 4 stalks of oregano that I'm gonna strip the leaves off of, and probably what is 2 tablespoons of basil. Oregano is such a fragrant herb. I just love it. And something in the deep recesses of my mind tells me that it means joy of the mountains. That could either come from my mom, could come from Rachel Ray. I was heavily influenced by Rachel Ray and her 30-minute meals when I was a kid. Or it could come from my imagination. So I need to fact check myself to tell you if that's correct or not. So I'm just processing through this basil and oregano. Next thing, it says 2 cloves of garlic peeled. So I'm guessing we just toss those in whole, which is fine for me. I never mind not chopping more garlic. 1 large onion chopped. Kind of assuming that the onion, bell pepper, and garlic are all gonna go in at the same time. Could be a wrong assumption. Ooh, that is a strong onion. The recipe calls for 1 green bell pepper chopped. These are teeny tiny bell peppers. So I'm gonna use 2 of them. And that, I believe, whole tomatoes are at the stove. Onion, green bell pepper, apples, garlic, basil, oregano, sausage, salt and pepper, parsley, and olive oil. We're ready to move over to the stove. Not a ton of prep goes into this. It's mostly just time on the stove. Okay, sausage is looking nice. I'm just gonna add all of the veggies in. Get them starting to sweat down. Okay, so the veggies have been cooking for like 5 minutes. They're starting to go translucent. And I think I'm just gonna add the rest of the ingredients. I'm gonna try to make this as simple as I can and see what happens. So in go our tomatoes. I'm gonna add the herbs that we chopped up. I have a feeling I'm gonna need to add some more basil later. Go for some pepper, a little bit of salt. Just a very little bit. I'm gonna go real light on the salt right now. This is gonna cook for hours, so I wanna make sure that I've got the right salt level in the final product. Now the question I have for myself is what to do with the apple mixture. So I know we've got the juice plus squeezing out the apples. There will be more moisture in there. I think what I might do is add some of it now and some of it later. How's that sound? So that's a couple cups. And then I'm gonna reserve this and use a cheesecloth to squeeze those apples out. See if we can get more liquid, but I've also got the rest of the cider from the apples. So I think that's it. I think that's as simple as it is. I think what I'm gonna do now is cover this, kind of turn it down to like between medium and low and let this simmer for a solid couple hours. So I'll see you the next time I stir this or in a couple hours, whichever comes first. So my pasta has been resting for probably like an hour and I'm gonna try to roll it out. I'm gonna roll this pasta out by hand today. That's what they did in the old movie. And so I'm just gonna cut it into 2 separate chunks and go one at a time. It looked like she was making like linguine-ish size, so that's what I'm gonna try to do. Okay, I think that's about good enough. Somehow it's in the shape of a heart. Roll and slice. And then we have pasta. So satisfying. Okay, pasta is all done. So this is gonna go off to the side and I'm gonna wait a little while longer. And the next time I see you, we'll be finishing off that sauce. We are getting dangerously close to Nonna's Sunday gravy time. This has been cooking down for many hours. My house smells absolutely delicious. Yeah, it's looking really good. So good, in fact, that I've got a big pot of water going for our pasta. I'm only cooking a single serving of this tonight, but now we've got to do the final touches. And that's, I think I'm gonna add some more basil. I'm just gonna tear it in, parsley. I think I'm gonna add a little more sweet too, but we'll see after the taste. So in with a little bit more, that's probably about a cup of that apple cooking liquid. Okay, the other thing in the movie is a little squeezy squeeze of the apples through a cheesecloth. I don't know if this is gonna do anything. They're completely cool now. So there's quite a bit of liquid in them. Okay, I'm gonna tear in some extra basil. And the parsley. Really pretty sauce. Squeezing the apples makes a huge difference. That is a delightful sauce. That is really good. It is not a fake recipe, as I feared. I believe this is a real recipe. And I have lots of thoughts. I'm gonna finish cooking the pasta, toss a little sauce on, and when we do the final taste test, I will tell you all of my thoughts. The sauce is delicious, but I think the order of operations was a little bit off for me. So I'm gonna taste a bite with my homemade hand-cut pasta. It's very good. You can really taste the sweetness from the apple, which I'm thrilled about because you couldn't while it was cooking. I think I got the order of operations wrong. So because I added a lot of the apple cider right at the end, the sauce is a little bit runnier than I want. I'm gonna keep cooking it down. This is not the end of that sauce. It's gonna stay on the stove for probably a couple more hours. I want it to get nice and thick and really reduce a little bit more than it has, even though I've had it going for like 4 hours. I want it to reduce more. And I think the reason it's taking so long is because I added the apple cider at the end. The next time I do this, here's my thought. Add the apple cider with the tomatoes, maybe a total of like 2 to 3 cups. I think I probably had 4 to 5 cups. But add the apple cider, the liquid part of the cooking liquid with the apples, when I'm cooking the tomatoes down. Let all of that reduce all throughout the day. And then at the end, I think is when I'm gonna squeeze in the apples through a cheesecloth. And I think that that will allow me to have some of that fresh apple flavor, but there was not actually all that much liquid that came from those apples, maybe like a half of a cup. And that half of a cup would be enough right at the end to not ruin the consistency of the sauce, not really water it down, but also to add a ton of flavor to that sauce that's really sweet and kind of nuanced in the background. All in all, I think we did it. I think this was a really successful cooking day, an experiment that worked. The sauce is really nice and it's something that I would recommend. And I would love to hear from you what technique you might think to use with the apple cider and when you might think to add all of those ingredients. And if you are an Italian nonna or you have an Italian grandmother who made sauce like this, please let me know the right way to do it. I'm gonna keep doing research and keep playing with this recipe, but I don't think I have it nailed yet. But this is totally passable, or at least I will enjoy it for dinner tonight, and I hope that you give this recipe a try too. We'd love to hear about any experimentation you do or changes that you make. Thank you so much for joining me today in this little flight of fancy, recreating Nonna's Sunday Gravy, or at least the Netflix version of Nonna's Sunday Gravy. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more from me, please stick around, subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you. I'm gonna go finish my bowl of pasta now, so I'll see you here next time. Cheers.